Everything we have discussed so far has been about objectives, about wanting, about what happens when people pursue or fail to pursue what they need. Blood Wedding takes all of that and sets it on fire. Lorca is not interested in psychology in the same way Chekhov is. He's interested in forces, primal ones: desire, honor, death, blood. And the terrifying moment is when you realize that desire and death in this play are not opposites. They are the same impulse moving in the same direction. A young man is to marry a woman in rural Andalusia. The woman was previously in love with Leonardo, the only named character in the play, which is itself significant. On their wedding day, the bride runs away with Leonardo, who is already married and with a baby. The bridegroom pursues them. Both men die in the forest. Only the bride returns. And that is where the real Lorca unfolds. That is the plot. What happens underneath is something else entirely. But before we talk about the people, I want to talk to you about the knife. In Blood Wedding, the knife is not a weapon. It is a presence, pretty much like Chekhov's gun. It appears in language before it appears in action. Characters speak about it, fear it, are drawn to it, without fully understanding why. Lorca uses it in the way other playwrights use a character. It has weight, it has intention. It arrives before you expect it, and it stays after it has done its work. So in plain language, the knife is death made physical. And it's in the room from the very beginning, even when nobody can see it. As a director, this is one of the most exciting staging challenges. How do you make an object feel like a fate? And then we have the Beggar Woman, who is the character that haunts me the most in this play. She appears as an old woman on the road. She guides the bridegroom towards Leonardo and the bride in the forest. And slowly it becomes clear she's not just an old woman, she's death itself. But Lorca does something fantastic with her. She's not separate from desire. She's desire's shadow. She follows lust in the way that a shadow follows a body. Always there, always waiting. The connection between lust and death in Blood Wedding is not metaphorical, it is structural. Every moment of intense desire in the play moves towards destruction. Not as a punishment, but as consequence. So in plain language, when people pursue what they want most completely and most recklessly, death is always nearby. Not judging, but just present. Just waiting for the moment that desire will burn hot enough. Those are the forces of nature, not of morality, and Lorca stages it exactly as that. And then we have the mother, who's the character who broke my heart when I first properly understood her. She has already lost her husband and one son to knives and old feuds. She's terrified of losing her remaining son, but everything she does to protect him accelerates the very tragedy she fears. She arranges the marriage, she pushes for the union, she tries to build a wall of family and respectability around him. And in doing so, she sets the whole machinery in motion. Her love is maternal, it's total. It is the most pure love in the play. But love without the ability to release what you love is not protection. It is a trap. And in this case, for both of them, so in plain language, the tighter she holds, the more inevitable the loss becomes. And she knows this somewhere underneath. That knowledge is what makes her unbearable to watch. And I want to give a moment to the neighbor, because she's so often underplayed. She knows things she should not know. She hints at things she shouldn't hint at. There's something almost playful about her that sits right on the edge of malevolence. But she's not evil. She's not innocent either. She's the kind of character who exists in every small community. The one who carries information from house to house with a smile that contains just a little too much. So in plain language, we can say that she's a messenger of death who does not know she is a messenger. Or perhaps she does. Lorca never quite let you decide. And as a director, that ambiguity is everything. You have to cast her perfectly, because the danger has to come from inside, from that ambiguity. Blood Wedding only makes completely sense when you understand where Lorca is coming from. He's writing from inside a culture where honor is not an abstract concept. It is a living force that governs behavior as completely as law. And the bride, she doesn't run away because she's reckless. She runs because desire in her world is more powerful than any choice. It is something that once it happens to you, you cannot escape. And Leonardo is the same. He doesn't pursue her because he's selfish. He pursues her because he has never stopped wanting her. And that wanting has its own gravity. Lorca takes those forces seriously. He doesn't judge them. He dramatizes them with the same respect a playwright might give to a storm or to an earthquake, because in his universe, that is exactly what they are. Blood Wedding is the play that I return when I want to remember what theater can do that no other art form can. It operates below the language, below the psychology, below the kind of analysis we have been doing across this whole series. It works on the body before it works in the mind. And when it's performed correctly, the audience, they don't understand it. They can feel it right in the chest first, but they cannot name what they are feeling. That is Lorca, and there is nobody else quite like him. So Blood Wedding doesn't ask you to understand desire and death. It asks you to feel them as the same thing. And what separates Lorca from everything else we have discussed in this series is that his characters are not driven by psychology or thought or even desire in the way we usually understand it. They are driven by something more primal, more animalistic. Forces that live in the body before the mind has any say. So when I direct Lorca, those forces are always where I start. But I do not stop there. I bring those primal forces together with the psychological architecture underneath. The body and the inner life are the same system. What Lorca ignites in the body, I trace back to the psychology of each character. Both layers have to be alive at the same time for the play to work completely. That is what makes Blood Wedding feel less like a play and more like something that happens to you as the audience. And once you have felt that, you cannot unfeel it. That is what theater at its best does. It changes something in you as the audience that you cannot change back. So we started with Hamlet, a man who thinks too much to act. We moved through Macbeth, Three Sisters, The Cherry Orchard, and we end here with Lorca, with desire and death, and a knife that was always in the room. 5 plays, 5 completely different ways of being human, and all of them still completely alive. So if that interests you, there's a lot more where this came from.